Our next guest is Heather Bowden, and we'll bring in Heather now into the live stream. Hey, Heather. Greetings, Heather Bowden. Heather is the founder of Ratchet Up, an online professional resume writing service. She recently fled, she says, to Baltimore, Maryland to escape New York City. I can understand that. Where she wrote resumes for executives and was a professor of entrepreneurship and computer information systems. Now Heather uses her proprietary system for beating online job applications. This is going to be really important, guys, to listen to what Heather has to say to help freelancers to Fortune 100s get their dream job and company. So welcome, Heather, and I think you're going to talk today about like basically how to get interviews as quickly and as easily as possible. Is that what you're going to take us through today? So over to you, and we're really looking forward to your insights.
Thanks, Mike, for that introduction. So yeah, today I'll be talking about how to get interviews as quickly and easily as possible. I'll be focusing specifically on resumes. So I noticed that someone was from India, so I will also throw in some extra information geared towards India because India is the resume requirements that India has are actually different from the US. So it'll be
Yes.
important for you to know what those are. So I want to start by talking about how a lot of job seekers, the first thing that it seems to be common to do is to Google how to write a resume. And I can tell you right now that as a former biologist and scientific researcher, I've spent a lot of time seeing what's out there. And a lot of times, just in my assessment, the information about cover letters and interviewing and salary negotiation are pretty spot on and useful and will get you results. But when it comes to resumes, resumes are very profitable. And a lot of companies are incentivized to produce clickbait articles that are essentially rabbit holes. They seem like they're providing information, but they're mostly designed just to get you to hire them. And I'll give you a couple examples. So, JobScan in particular targets resumes that can get past applicant tracking systems. And applicant tracking systems are what HR managers and recruiters use to try and find candidates, and a lot of them are keywords based. And so, for example, you might read an article that says you have to include all the keywords, but you can't just dump a bunch of them at the bottom of your resume in a white font and hope that that's going to get you through. That's actually really frowned upon. Another thing that they'll talk about is how you should always submit your resume in PDF form. But then a lot of other sites will say you should only upload your resumes in Word document form. And so I'll tell you right now, there's a really, really easy way to get around this. So the reason why they say always use PDF is because it preserves your formatting. While that may be true for the PDF, a lot of these applicant tracking systems actually do something called parsing, where they take your resume and break it down into its most basic form. And so I always encourage applicants to only submit in Word document form. And so here's the hack: you find a beautiful template, the site, get it from the resume builder, whatever it is that you're using, says it's going to pass ATS, it's going to get through those online job applications. But the reality is that a lot of them export to PDF, and these parsing algorithms break down those resumes so they look terrible. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your resume, this beautiful template that you got online or wherever, and you're just going to copy it into a notepad document. And in a notepad, it's going to remove all of the text format and it's going to put it into the most basic form it can, and take a look at it. If it's still beautiful as it can be in plain text, then you have a really good template and you can use that template. But then here's what you also want to do. You want to take that plain text and then paste it back into a Word document. And if it still looks pretty, that's a really, really good one to use. So always upload in Word document format. I you know, I I think that it's important to feel good when you're doing resume applying to jobs, but the thing that I care about most is results. And I can tell you, Word document will always win because you don't have to worry about your formatting. You're already making sure it looks good in plain text and in the Word document. And then that, like in my mind, it's like, how can I make this as likely to succeed as possible? That's the easiest way. If it looks great in plain text, it's going to look great in any format. So start there. The next thing that they talk a lot about is keywords. So I actually use a hybrid version of a resume. Many of you who have gone down this rabbit hole have probably seen different versions. So you have the chronological version, you have the functional resume, and then you have the hybrid. So the resume style that I have found tests the best and almost always gets through applicant tracking systems, including keywords, is more of a hybrid version. So a lot of people talk about summaries. I think you should always include a summary, but the summary is not necessarily your highlight reel from your resume. The summary's only goal is to get them to read the rest of the resume. And a lot of people use X number of years in marketing industry or X number of years as a operations executive. I think that in my testing, I encourage you to not include the number of years unless you can say a very clean over a decade because of ageism. So putting
Mm-hmm.
that number in there automatically dates you. A, it dates you, or B, it puts a number in the recruiter's mind on how much you're worth. And so if you're 5 years, you're going to be considered mid level, you're going to be worth a certain salary amount. If you're a decade, that is often it's enough to be seen as extremely experienced and valuable and competent, but not so much that you might run into issues with ageism. So when you're writing your summary, I very strongly advise against just relying on the number of years that you've had experience with a certain thing. Instead, focus on your accomplishments. Um,
Really like that. Yep.
and so if you want any examples of this, definitely hit me up. I'm happy to provide examples of all of these things. I will say that the most useful clickbait includes examples. If you're looking at clickbait articles about resume writing and they have no examples, but just tell you like a laundry list of things that you're supposed to do, just leave because it's not a good use of your time. So the next part of the resume is include a list of your skills. So even though it might seem like something that a functional resume would have, instead of focusing on a highlight reel that's not connected to any sort of position or job, include a list of skills, the core skills. And so if you want, I can also send you an example of what this looks like. But you're going to
That'd be
want to
great.
say,
Be great.
yeah, I'm happy to send
Mm,
examples of all of this.
fantastic.
So so you're going to want to definitely rely on a chronological resume where you're starting from your most recent position and then going backwards. But right before that, you're going to have your summary, and then you're going to have your core skills. And so I like to use the phrase core skills because I've seen a lot of resumes where they'll use the word relevant. I think relevant is a dangerous word because every hiring manager wants certainty. They want confidence that they're making the right decision. And so anything that you can do to as quickly as possible make them think this person's competent and they have exactly the skills I'm looking for. The core skills list is a great way to get around having a kind of a laundry list of all the keywords that might be relevant, but then also having them sprinkled throughout the resume. So, for example, if you're going to say SEO and SMO in your core skills, you might want to spell the whole word out when you're later on in the resume talking about having that specific skill. Um, what's So I have a whole list of things.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'm just gonna give you a list
No,
until
let's
I run
go. I
out of
think I
time,
think everyone wants to
basically.
hear these, Heather. Everyone wants to hear these.
So when it comes to formatting, as I said with the plain text, that's the most important thing. But because tons of people right now are hopping on these resume builders, it's going to be even more challenging to stand out. So not only are you trying to stand out against all the other bazillions of people that are also looking for work, that are in danger of being furloughed or even furloughed or unemployed, formatting. If you had asked me 2 months ago what I thought about formatting, I would have said beautiful but boring because of the ATS. Now I think it's important to have a pretty template. And so you definitely want to stay away from columns and anything that wouldn't translate very well into plain text format. But you do want to have a little bit of color. And so I'll tell you the best templates that I've seen. I haven't tested all of them, but I've tested a few. And the website, the resume builder that I've seen that has the best templates is called Visual CV. And so
yeah, we'll put that in the comments. Nina, could you stick that into the comments? And if you can just, and then if you can just confirm, Heather, we get that right. Visual CV.
And so the cool thing about Visual CV, and I haven't seen any other website do this, is not only do they tell you that their resumes are ATS optimized, but they also have maybe the best blog that I've ever seen. And the blog is country specific. So if you're in India, they have a whole blog post about what Indian CVs should have. So in India, for example, they use the term CV, whereas in the US, CV means a very specific thing. It's normally associated with academia, and it's normally associated with publication. And so if you have a CV in the US, it might be 5 or 10 pages long. But in India, they just call it a CV, but it's actually a resume. In India, you're also going to want to include a picture. Passive and action. Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, so, just when you get to that, finish your point about the Indian thing, and then see if we can develop this Latanya question.
So definitely check out Visual CV's blog posts about country. You can just see the examples there. I won't go through the whole laundry list of examples, but just one example off the top of my head is in India, you should have a picture of yourself on your CV, whereas in the US, that is going to cause bias, and you want to do anything you can to not include bias. So
I really agree with that one, Heather. Yeah, I really agree with that one. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So anything that has you go, just don't include it. When in doubt, leave it out. I hate to say it, but when in doubt with the resume, leave it out. So the question, can you differentiate passive and action language? So I think you mean active language. And I'll give you, let me just pull up a resume example. So just in general writing, when you write your resume, pull out a book like On Writing Well. And I think you can actually get a copy of On Writing Well free. Another hack is whenever you want to read a book, search for the title with the word PDF and use a private window, because some of them are a little scammy. But a lot of these older books, especially on writing, you can find free copies of them available through many universities if you just add the term PDF to the end of it. So passive and active language is really a question of writing. And so if you look at the distinction between writing in maybe the 1920s versus the 1950s, in the 1920s, everybody wanted to sound smart. And the way that you sounded smart was you used more words. And in the 1950s, when ads became a really big thing, everybody realized, wait, if I can say a lot with very little, that's actually what's going to convert. And so if you think of your resume as a marketing tool, arguably your most important marketing tool, because you're going to make more money through having an amazing resume than you will in the stock market. For the vast majority of people, if you look at returns, inflation's 3%. At best, with the mutual fund, you're looking at 8% if times are good. Salary is always going to make you money than any of these retirement mechanisms.
It's a really good point. Look, these are really great Great points, Heather. We've got your contact details here. If anyone wants to reach out to you and follow up with these, Heather, is this your best way? You prefer that people find you on LinkedIn or through your email there?
LinkedIn and my email is great. On my LinkedIn, I also have a link in my description for Calendly. I do want to quickly announce that I've mostly focused on executives and senior level people, but I used to teach at Baruch College and helped a lot of students. And I realized that right now seems to be really timely to try and help students. And I was trying to think of how I could do that. And I think I want to do it through a class. So the class is going to be $99. You're going to get unlimited coaching, unlimited help. We're going to get you a job. So sign up for the Calendly on my LinkedIn. That's the best way to find me. And we'll have 18 wonderful minutes together. So
Thank you very, very
connect.
much. Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you for coming along. I
Thanks,
actually learned
Heather.
something
That was
about
great.
about resume stuff. You've got some really great feedback there.
Yeah, I could go on for days.
I
so
know, and
thanks
look,
for this time.
please feel free to stay on a bit longer, Heather, in the side if you like. We're going to bring on our next guest, and thank you very, very much. So everybody, thank you to Heather Bowden, the founder of Ratchet Up and our resident
Thank you,
expert
Heather.
on resumes. Appreciate
Thank
that. Thank you very, very much, Heather.